don't know if you've noticed, but marketing seems to be getting more and more complicated these days. For most of us, throwing up a Facebook ad or a billboard or sending an email that just says, "buy this," just doesn't work anymore. Instead, we see the emergence of ideas like inbound marketing built on great content offers and funnels and often complex campaigns, and they work, but they're not easy. That's why we need to follow Mickey's 7th commandment to tell one story at a time. Stay tuned. Welcome to episode 25 of the Magical Marketing Minute-ish, my weekly show focused on helping entrepreneurs and marketing professionals with a quick tip for improving your marketing inspired by the Walt Disney Company. This week, I'm going to give you 3 reasons to focus on the 7th of Mickey's 10 Commandments, written originally by Marty Sklar for the Disney Imagineers. Before we get into those 3 reasons, though, what do I actually mean here? Much like we discussed in last week's episode on Commandment number 6, to avoid marketing overload, we have to be very careful in marketing or when telling any kind of story to keep things clear, logical, and consistent, as Mr. Sklar points out in his book on the Commandments, One Little Spark. Mr. Sklar mentions the use of storyboards by storytellers at Disney, a process Disney actually invented in the 1930s, and I use a similar process when planning marketing campaigns. Instead of actual storyboards, because I am an absolutely terrible artist, I just draw something like a flowchart on a whiteboard illustrating each component of a campaign. The content offer, the landing page and form, the blog posts connecting to those, the social updates connecting to the blog post, and the ad campaigns connected at various points throughout. Then I'll connect each campaign to other campaigns down the line, so from visitor to lead to sales pitch, for example. This process helps me to address the 3 reasons why this commandment is so important. So what are those reasons? Number 1, it helps me to visualize the complete flow of my campaigns. This speaks to Mickey's 3rd commandment to organize the flow of people and ideas. Mapping my campaigns in this way forces me to think clearly about how my audience will move from one piece of content or one piece of the story to the next, and make sure that the process is as smooth as it can be. Number 2, it helps me to avoid overloading my audience. Just as we discussed last week on Mickey's 6th commandment to avoid overload, focusing my efforts on telling one clear, logical, and consistent story at a time helps me avoid the problem of blasting my audience with too much information at once. And number 3, it helps me to identify bottlenecks and holes in a campaign plot. When you take the time to draw out each piece of your campaign, how they connect and how you drive traffic to and through the funnel, you'll be able to easily spot where you've forgotten a piece of content or could add one to provide another angle on your subject. You can also sometimes spot where people might get stuck, particularly once you start analyzing traffic data, and so where you might need to focus more attention to smooth the flow from one point to the next. And there you have it. This commandment to tell one story at a time, particularly when combined with some of those other commandments we discussed, will help you to create better, more organized, and more effective marketing stories. I highly, highly recommend you also pick up Mr. Sklar's book, One Little Spark, if you want more great examples of these commandments in action at Disney, as well as examples of when Disney didn't quite hit the nail on the head. You can pick up his book from Amazon by visiting mtm.show/spark. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the Magical Marketing Minute. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, like the MTM page on Facebook, or subscribe to the blog at mtm.show/subscribe to catch every new episode and podcast. And until next time, I'll see you real soon.